Joining us now, he's the head coach at Oklahoma State, fresh off another Women's College World Series appearance. I speak of Kenny Gajewski joining us back here on In the Circle. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Eric. Appreciate you having me, and just looking forward to a new year here.
A new year, and a lot of fans are looking forward to your team. A lot of high expectations. What's that like? When you took over this program, the expectations were low. But now that you've made, Women's College World Series appearances now in the last couple times that the Women's College World Series took place, with the roster you have, the expectations are through the roof. What has that been like for you, and how do you address that with your players?
I mean, to be honest, Eric, we haven't even talked about it. I don't. We've been talking about expectations from day one with this group. And then we were able to add a piece like Miranda Ellis in the fall. I think everybody knew those expectations were going to rise again. And then when you can add another piece like Julia Cottrell at the break, I think we all understand what we have, what people outside of us are saying, but we don't spend a lot of time on that, to be very honest. I mean, the expectations internally are high. They always have been, even from day one. I mean, the expectation just to do A, B, and C to the best of their abilities was always high from day one. It was a little harder then because it was new. But what's crazy to me is we're in our 7th year. I don't know where time has gone. And it just, maybe that means you're at your ideal job and you love who you work with and you love the kids you got in here. And maybe that's why time flies. But our expectations are higher for us than they are outside. I can tell you that for sure.
7 years. Yeah, that usually means you're having fun and a lot of success like you did last year. When you reflect back on last year, what comes to mind? You win that, regional, you win that dramatic super regional against Texas, get to the World Series. What comes to your mind when you reflect on last year?
I think just more growth. I think growth. I think that may be the biggest thing. I think, we had a crazy great year. We had a little bit of a bad moment on a big stage against JMU where we botched a play that credit Odyssey for making it. I wish we could go back and change it because we run it right. We score a run, no problem, and changes the whole outcome of that game. That doesn't mean we win or lose. You don't know that, but so we're still in a major growth area, major getting better, constantly searching to clean some things up, attention to detail, and just in a great place with our kids. I just love the stages that we're going through. I feel like we're going through it the right way too. Like, in order to have repeatable, sustainable success, if you're growing too fast, that becomes very, very hard. And we've taken the right steps, and we've got great people in here, and we lost some key pieces, but we added some more key pieces. And I think that's the nature of this. And if you want to be good, that's what you got to do. And so I'm happy with last year. Disappointed at times, yeah, but it's tough, man. This game has gotten so good. The coaching is really good. The players are really good. The resources that schools are putting into this sport, it's awesome, man. I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Your last game of the season is going to turn out to be a pretty historic one for the game itself because it was you and Florida State playing in the wee hours, which caused a lot of controversy. People upset that you're playing that late hours. I've talked to Coach Alameda. She said that she was talking to you, and they're like, do we have to play? What can we do? That caused a ripple effect now. There's a schedule change. The Women's College World Series schedule has been expanded in part because of that game and starting so late. What was your reaction with the change? And take us through that. What was that scenario like, having to play that late? Weather in Oklahoma, which you know very well, could happen at a moment's notice. It was kind of wild how this thing just become a bigger than life story.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things to think about in this. First of all, the biggest catastrophe of the whole thing is that those games are sold out and we played in front of about 2,000 fans. That's the biggest catastrophe. These girls earned the right to be in that moment, and that was robbed from them. Now, as an OSU person, I didn't care if we played that game or not. Like I was okay with playing it because when you really look back, the advantage was all ours. I mean, it was all ours. Florida State had already played. They're beat down. They're having to sit around forever and then get rewarm and then play. Okay. We had to just wait around. We didn't have to play and go through all that emotional, physical drain of mental drain of a World Series game. So I felt like the advantage was ours. We just didn't take advantage of our opportunity. So and then the worst thing that came out of it, besides being our last game, the worst thing is we didn't really get to have that moment with our team. Like we didn't get to go to the locker room and cry and talk and kind of seal the envelope and put it away. Like it just kind of went away. And so that may be the one thing that nobody really talks about. The losing team in that scenario, it's 3 a.m. Like you're done, like you're spent, like you just want to go home and go to bed. That really sucked. And so I'm glad we changed this. I'm glad that some people that have some power, like a Patty Gasso, spoke out, because it probably took that. The NCAA wasn't going to listen to me or Lonnie. They're going to listen to Patty. And I was really happy that she did that. And some others, I think Carol Hutchins, who's got some juice, spoke out. And I appreciate that because I appreciate it for our game. Like I want our game to be on. If that game should have been in prime time, man, and we missed that opportunity. So that was a mistake there. But I didn't care about playing. I mean, we had the advantage in winning that game, and we just didn't take advantage of the opportunity.
A lot of people spoke out on social media. I know you probably didn't see it. You guys probably turned that out. But on social media, it was a hot topic. There was people that don't cover the sport normally that were even speaking about it. They were talking about it on the broadcast. I mean, it was a firestorm on there. I don't know, like, did you even catch wind on how big of a story that had become, or were you all just kind of like, when did you know that this is actually a big story? Something might happen here.
I think probably after the game or the next day when your phones, you're getting all these messages about, great year, proud of you guys. That was crazy what you had to do. And so then you start going, man, all these people know and knew and care and have an opinion. So I think that's probably when I knew. I mean, in the moment, I mean, we weren't sitting there like on our phones checking social media. So it wasn't really a big concern. Lonnie and I did talk numerous times, and I don't think either of us were just sat there like kind of dumbfounded that we weren't being communicated with better. I'm not going to say that we weren't being communicated with, but the wild thing is I kind of was shocked that we weren't being communicated with the decision maker. Like we never talked to that person, whoever that is. It may be TV. I mean, it may just be them and saying, "Hey, this has to play." I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
it seemed from the outside that nobody really knew exactly what to do, which is kind of wild. There wasn't a backup plan. Maybe they should hire you as a meteorologist, because this in Oklahoma, bad weather could happen at a moment's notice. You might want to have a backup plan just in case.
yeah, I think that's probably what they were working through. Is okay, if we can't play this, how do we get tomorrow right?
Right.
If we can't play, and if we get this played or don't get it played and we play tomorrow, how do we get the next day right? And so I listen, I don't want to do those jobs. And I'm not going to throw rocks in a glass house because I don't know that I had the answers either. I think you have to go through some heartache and some growing pains to get better, and change is hard, and it's good though. And so what this is doing, like the NCAA is making a bigger investment now in this game. They're going to extend this series out. It costs more money to extend it just, everything's money, you know that. And so I think that it's justifiable. I get in some sports where it, as bad as I hate to say this, it may not be justifiable, but the way this sport has grown, I think it's justifiable at this point. And so we just take advantage of this, and our game has never been stronger. It's never got more attention. It's never been better. And so, look, let's just get it right. And that's all I want. Let's get it right. We were in the middle of it. Hey, in the end, it was good publicity for OSU and our program, and Florida State and their program, and the World Series as a whole. It was good pub that was on every network, every channel, everybody talking about. And as you know, sometimes any pub is good pub. Not trying to justify bad pub, but sometimes that's what we got to have to get growth. And I think we're getting that.
Well, and the remarkable thing, I mean, the World Series did extra big numbers, televisions across the board, but even your game against Florida State at 1, 2 in the morning, whatever time it was, it actually did a bigger number than even some of the primetime college baseball World Series games, which is just like tells you of the appetite of the fan base on the sport, that this is a television juggernaut, and there should be respect towards television because they make this happen too. So I think everybody's made this work now. Like you said, I think it's for the best in the long run, and things happen for a reason. And it's going to be exciting to see the expanded schedule, to see how that unfolds there. How does that, with the new schedule, World Series, having coached in the World Series, how big of an adjustment is that schedule?
It's a good question. It's something we'll think about, at the end of the year. We feel like we have the team to be there. So we'll kind of look at that. I don't know. The bottom line is you got to win the game you're playing that day. You know what I mean? You just got to figure out a way to win that game. And so we'll get there. And if we're there and we're in that, in that hotel room, getting our strategy together, we'll start talking about it. But we haven't really sat down and talked about it a whole lot as a staff right now. We're focused on this team and getting ready for the first weekend.
How are the returners looked in the fall from the standpoint of, you mentioned it, not the way you would have liked to have ended the season, just a very bizarre deal, 2, 3 in the morning, your season's over, middle of the night. Is there a chip on the shoulder of the returners, like some unfinished business? What's kind of the approach from them that you've seen in the fall and here into is before you get close to the season?
I think the thing we've talked about is just kind of the time is now. Like this team is very, very talented. There's a lot of experience on this team. There's a lot of, postseason experience, fighting OU to the very end in conference the last years, getting over that hump of beating them. So the time is now, and that's kind of been their motto. The sense of urgency has been incredible. This team, is very focused, doing their work like professionals do. It's a very, this is a program where the players have a lot of say in what's going on. They don't have all the say, but they have a voice here. And so we try to pay attention to how they feel, what they think, their ideas. When teams can come up with their own mottos and their own sayings, and they're policing themselves, that's a sign of a healthy program. And like we continually tell them, this is not our program, this is their program. We're just placeholders here as coaches, and this is their program. It'll be their program forever. And that's what we talk about. This is a forever place. This isn't just a 4-year place. If you're a Miranda Ellish, this isn't a 6-month place. This is a forever place. Carrie Eberly, sitting in the other room now, came here thinking for 1 year, and now she's in the middle of her third year now as a GA here. These are the things that I think about. We've got Vanessa Shippey in the other room as our volunteer assistant coach, 4 years as an assistant or as a player here. And now the second year as the volunteer. Like, it's a forever thing for these kids and these women now. And it's really cool because they're the ones that are coming up with ideas and things to brighten our orange and our logo and our whatever you want to call it. They're the ones that are really invested, and it's really cool. And I love to see it.
Well, you mentioned, let's start with the pitching. You mentioned Carrie Eberly now, a grad coach there, a grad assistant after an incredible year, incredible career for you there. You bring back Kelly Maxwell leading the way. You got some new faces in the circle. Mentioned Miranda Ellis, Morgan Day from Illinois State. Just talk about your pitching staff as a whole.
I mean, I got to think it's the best pitching staff we've had here. What Carrie did here, I mean, hasn't been done here in a long time. Kelly's shown spurts of that. I think her deal now is just having the stamina to finish like Carrie could. But I know, like, when we gave Carrie the ball, it was like, hey, I'll see you when the game's done. That was the mentality. Like, I never one time did I think she wouldn't finish, say, a game. And I don't know, there were very many times when I looked at her and said, hey, you good? It was like, oh yeah, like, get away. Like, that's how it was. And so, if Kelly can be in that category and be able to finish, she's got the stuff. We know that, we've watched it. Then you add Morgan Day, who comes in from Illinois State, who's been a finisher there. Big, powerful body, getting better every day here. I can't wait to see what she does. And then you add Miranda, who we already know what she's capable of. Now, she hasn't played in a year and a half, so she's got to find that and get all of that back. But I'm not going to tell her that she can't. The competitor in her is wild. And it's coming back day by day. And then we have a freshman in Tatum Clopton who is a little bit up and down. The highs are good and the lows are low. So we're going to get her more consistent, but she has the luxury of learning from 3 amazing pitchers, 3 good people. So she's seeing the work ethic, the drive, the competitive spirit that it takes, the expectation to be an ace. So you add those 4 kids, like, I don't know that we've had a better staff here ever in this program. And this is a storied program with a lot of history.
And really, it takes some of the pressure off each other, right? Like, if you're a freshman, you don't have to worry about carrying the load. You can learn from the veterans. The veterans know they got somebody backing them up. Miranda, obviously, it's unique coming back after a year off for her. How is that going to be, that process? You mentioned, because do you have to, as a staff, remind yourselves, hey, look, we got to go slow with her? Is it kind of a day by day, you see what she looks like? How do you evaluate her with her just arriving and being off for a year, as opposed to a player you've had, since the fall, or, players that have been playing all the time?
Yeah, I think it'd be different if she was at another program and was pitching in the fall, and she's been pitching, but not to the level that she's exerting every day here now. So I think she's probably a hair ahead of where I thought she would be. I set my expectations low, kind of told her, hey, let's kind of shoot for the 3rd or 4th week in the season when you start to kind of really feel good. I don't think she liked that very much, to be very honest. Like, kind of like a nod her head at me, but like turned around. I was like, you're crazy. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I took that. And that's the expectation I think she has for herself. So that was really cool. But she's doing great. The bottom line is we're probably having to slow her down more than we're having to speed her up. She wants to go faster. John has done this for a long time. He's convinced her, I think, that, hey, just trust me in this process. I'll have you ready. You do it the way we want to do it. You tell me how you feel. If you don't feel like you're getting enough or you're getting too much, just communicate. That's what this is here. You got to act like a big kid here and communicate, and we'll work together to find the best plan for you. This is a very customizable program. We're not cookie cutters here. We don't treat everybody the same, getting them ready. Everybody's unique and they need what they need. It takes what it takes, and it's different for everyone. Everybody wants, I think, everybody out there wants a like a timeline. Well, there is no timeline. It just takes what it takes for each kid. And so just find out what you need. And we'll get that. We're working. Some kids need less, some kids need more, some kids just need the average, and it's figuring out what those kids need. So for Elish, it's just speeding up the process of learning who she is, what it takes. Now, we invested in her all fall long on the phone, video, any of that kind of stuff. We invested in her, you know what I mean? So like, it wasn't like she showed up here and we're trying to learn who she is. We had a pretty good feel of who she is. So, and she seems very happy, fit in with our team very, very well, very engaging, and we're starting to see her personality come out, and it's been cool.
And you make a great point. There's that balancing act of going too fast with a player, especially if a player hasn't played in a while, they want it right away. And that's where you can get into trouble sometimes, either with injury. I mean, that's the other aspect too, from a conditioning standpoint, stamina. When you've been away from the game, you can't simulate pitching 5-6 innings in a top 25 matchup in February. I mean, so there is that balancing act of being careful too. I mean, you on the one hand, you don't want to go too slow with her, but you don't want to go too fast with her because there could be a setback. There is a risk from an injury standpoint or et cetera.
Well, you can't win the final game in the first weeks. That's not when the final game is won. It's won in the final week. So like I reminded her, just take your time. Like, there's not a rush here. Like, we have really good arms here, and you're another one of those really good arms. And this will be a team effort. We're not going to rely on one kid at this point. Like, when we get down to the crunch time, we're going to throw who's hot. I mean, that's what we're going to do. And that's what the best teams do. You see it happen every year. Look what G did at the very end. She wasn't very hot going in to the World Series at all. As a matter of fact, I think she didn't even pitch in the Super. I think it was either one of those, because she wasn't going well. There was something not right, but credit them. They figured it out. She figured it out and carried them through the deal, because without her pitching like that, they may not win, even as good as their offense was. They needed her to pitch. And like every team, this will come down to pitching.
That's a great point. Offensively, you got so many players coming back. I mean, the names are who's who. I mean, that's got to be a luxury. You do, obviously, Allison Fabry. Let's bring her up. 18 homers, 60 RBIs, 400 average. What did she mean to your program and her impact?
Well, from the offensive standpoint, it was just attitude and mentality. And I know our team could look to her in big moments to be consistent. And she did that. And so we'll miss that. And hopefully we've seen enough of that Kylie Naomi can start to shoulder some of that burden. We have a freshman in Brianna Evans that I don't want to put too much pressure on, but I mean, she's made to handle it. And she's come in here like she's been here for 4 years and just handling it. So, we can replace Allison's numbers. We replace those with Morgan Wynn. They're the exact same. Maybe not as high of an average, but same amount of home runs and RBIs and all that kind of stuff. We replaced the numbers. And like I told Morgan, I don't need you to be Allison. I need you to be the best version of Morgan Wynn. That's all I need. That's all your team needs. Just be the best version of Morgan Wynn. And It's wild, man. I mean, it's crazy, with these kids, the Naomi's, the Penningtons, then you had Evans and Wynn and Carly Petty, who had a breakout year this past year. She'll move to the outfield. You get Busby back with her. I don't know. I think she hit close, maybe right at 20 home runs. I'm not
19
sure.
homers, 49 RBIs, 376 average. Oh, by the way, pretty good.
Yeah. So she'll be fighting for right field with Chelsea Alexander. I see them both in the lineup. I just see one of them playing right field. One is the DP right now, if you just had to write it down now. So you got that. And then you got the most steady player we've ever had here in Shy Factor in center field. And she just came in and told me just last week that she's going to come back for her COVID year as well. So that's a big boost to this team, this program. And I think it kind of validates to me that these kids are having fun here and they want to stay around here, which is really, really, which at the end of WCA makes me happy. And then you've got Michaela Richburg is over here, had one of the biggest hits in our 7 years here against Florida State in a super regional when everybody thought we would go down there and just get absolutely waxed. And we go in there and, beat the defending national champion. She hits that big extra inning opposite field home run, hit 14 home runs that year. Didn't have quite a good year this last year. Just for whatever reason, just the numbers weren't there. Got off to an incredible start the first weekend. And I thought, here we go. And then it just never really got rolling like we thought it would. She's over there fighting Morgan Wynn. And by the way, you had Julia Cottrell. And I think if you put truth serum in Julia, she hasn't performed the way she would want to up to this point that she expects of herself. And she's still hitting 300 against an SEC schedule. And, so you had her with Taylor Tuck in the background. It's a pretty good team. And it's pretty exciting to be able to figure out how to write this lineup and how it works best.
Obviously, you mentioned Julia coming in late here as well. How do you blend her in, and what do you see her role coming with this team? Because you're stacked. This is the deepest team you've had since you've been there, right?
Yeah, I would agree. This is the deepest team that we've had, and we keep saying that the last 3 years. And I don't think it's a reach at all. This team has a lot of depth and a lot of, like I said, a lot of experience. A lot of big game postseason experience. And that's what it's all about. So, not only with depth, we have experience, which I think is a really good combination. But Julia's come in very well. When kids leave, there's two sides to every story. We know that. The idea is to be thankful for where you were. And it was never as bad as you thought it was, and it's never as good as you think it is. And it's finding that place going, something just wasn't right for me, and I'm going to find that in my next place. I know that now. I got a new lease on life because of the transfer portal. And the idea is to take advantage of that. And I think she's very grateful for the opportunity to be here. She's been around here a lot. That whenever she's home, she's around our facility. She's always been so respectful of our program. She's friends with a lot of our girls. They talk a lot. So it wasn't as hard of a transition for her, other than just like normal human beings. We want to prove to everyone that we're worthy, or that we're good enough, or that, hey, I just want to be part of this. And so that's the normal progression that we got to go through. But she's just been great. She's been healthy. Looks good in the cage. We've only faced a live pitching once. We're going to do it again tomorrow and Sunday. And catching very, very well. We know that she's an elite catcher. I think the one thing that I maybe didn't know, and that I've got to get a really firsthand view of is she's a leader. She's vocal. She understands the game. She comes from a great family, and she's been coached well by Mark Griggs and the Wichita Mustangs and her dad. So she's been brought up, and her grandpa and uncles and all. They've got some pro baseball in their background. Her grandpa was a PGA Tour star. So these people know how to win and be great. So like she's been bred for this, but her voice carries here, which we had a little bit of that last year with Reagan Wright once she got comfy. But Julia's been able to walk in here from day one, and like her voice is loud when it needs to be loud. And our girls hear her and they respect her. She's brought some things to my attention when we're doing things that, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, at Florida, we've changed. We're doing this like this. What do you think about that? Like that is called being comfortable and trying to figure out the best way to do things. And she's got a coaching staff that feels the same way. Like we don't think we have it all figured out here. All we want to do is get better. If there's a better, more efficient way, we want to make it happen. So, she's turning into a coach on the field, and that's got real value.
Something I don't think you get enough credit for, because I've talked to you now and gotten to know you and about your teams, is you're very subconscious about making sure there's that chemistry on the team. You don't just bring players in because they're talented. You bring in because they fit. And I feel like if they didn't fit with your team or your culture, you wouldn't bring them in. You mentioned Julia's familiar with the program and what they do. Miranda, you've been staying with Fall. Talk about that, because I don't think you as a program get enough credit for that as far as building that culture and that chemistry where everybody's on the same page as players. You mentioned this is their program, not yours, as you talked about. And as a result, you have that leadership and people want to be around your program, but they got to fit.
I mean, fit is everything. You can't change the leopard stripes, right? I mean, they are what they are. So I think for us I put a very high value on relationships. I know nobody's safe here, like as far as like nobody's off limits here, including me. I take my brunt of being made fun of and laughed at and everything like that, and I enjoy that. I want to be authentic, and at the end, like, I've done an exercise before where they ask you, okay, what do you want your headstone to say? I don't know, but what's come to me over the last years is one word I want on there is authentic. Like, you may not agree, but at least you know where he stood. It was heartfelt. He genuinely cared. That's what I want. I will tell you this, Eric. I have some amazing coaches that we've assembled as a coaching staff here. And that goes for graduate assistants. That goes for data and video. That goes for all the director of ops. Like, it's wild how good it is here. And at the end of the day, I can go to bed at night and go, man, I'm not a very good coach compared to some of these people, but I do know my strengths, and my strengths are assembling and getting people to work together for a common goal. I used to think that it had to be my goal. And what I've learned is it can't be my goal. If I'm trying to shove down their throats what my goals are, they're not bought in. They have no ownership because it's my goal. So the idea is, what are your goals? And now I'm going to help you keep you accountable to what you told me what your goals were. And then work through social media and other people's experiences. And we just watched an incredible video of Jason Witten's retirement a couple of years back. And if you haven't seen it, go Google it. It's amazing what Jason Garrett talks about. And our team watched it. We took notes. It was amazing what came out of that. And it fits us, and like finding things that fit us. That's what I love. I love coaching, but I love assembling, and I love watching the growth of teams. I love the new journey every year. I give them everything I've got. I get the same thing back. And so when each year's done, whether you won the final game or didn't, you can put it to bed and go, what a great trip, what a great journey. And that's what I love. So when we bring these transfers in, it's the same thing I told Sam Shaw. Don't come here if this is a free agency type thing. Like, don't come here. I don't want you here. I want you to want to be here forever. I want you to, this is your family. And if you still see her on social media, she's still talking about our program, wearing her Oklahoma State stuff. I need to send her some fresh stuff. I need to write that down because some of her stuff is tired. I got to help her out, right? And I want her to keep representing our program the right way. And when any of these kids that played here, if I don't agree with their message or whatever it is, I'll be the first one to call them and say, hey, explain why you posted that, because you're part of this program. And I like, to understand why, and then let them tell you why. And most of the time it's like, probably ought to get that off there. Yeah, you probably ought to, you know what I mean? So we just love the challenge of that. This is about getting kids to, coaching to me is about getting kids to be comfortable with who they are, to be able to express that, to be vulnerable, to be authentic. And when kids have all that stuff going for them, they're usually happy. And when they're happy, the female athlete, when they're happy, man, look out, because they will do whatever it is that they want to do. They are the most powerful people on the planet. And it's taken the world a long time to figure that out. But women are the most powerful people that we have. I know there's people out there that don't want to admit that, but they are wrong. And so when you can empower them to be the best version of them, look out, man. It's crazy.
We're speaking with Oklahoma State head coach Kenny Gajewski here on In the Circle. Obviously, the big story in college athletics is realignment. That was took by storm in 2021, and certainly no league affected more than the Big 12 comings and goings. Oklahoma and Texas shocking to a lot of people, moving to the SEC down the road. The Big 12 will be adding UCF, Houston, and BYU down the road. What was your reaction when all that unfolded, and obviously from a softball impact there?
I was a little shocked. I mean, caught everybody a bit off guard. I've had every range of emotion, Eric, I don't think I don't think we're done yet. I don't think I just don't think it's done. I think, there's some things that are getting ready to come out in the next week or the next day or two. Actually, either today or tomorrow, there's a NCAA convention that's going on right now. They're voting on some pretty crazy things here today, I think. Tomorrow, that first part will come out. And it's the first steps in a lot of change. And it's going to get ugly before it gets better. I think that Oklahoma State is positioned very well in all sports. A lot of this is based on TV and what you bring to the table. And we are way higher than what people think. Third in our conference, and fourth and fifth and sixth are nowhere close. Obviously OU and Texas and their markets and their football history have a big advantage there. I understand that. But Oklahoma State is positioned very well. And in the end, that's all I'm worried about is us, and us doing our part, and we'll do our part. Everything will work out the way it should. And in the end, I'm really worried about softball, right? I just want our game to continue to grow. Our school is committed to our sport, our program, our team, our girls, my staff. And when you have that alignment in your own house, things are really good. And so I'll let the chips fall the way they may. You can speculate all you want to do. I just don't have time to speculate like some people do. And, there's, you can believe about half of what's out there because that's really all that's true, and maybe half of the half that's true. There's just a lot of speculation, and if we end up going with what's being set in front of us now, obviously UCF, BYU, Houston, Cincinnati, they don't play softball, but the Big 12 had a pretty good football year as well. If you want to add those teams in, take Texas out and Oklahoma out and add those teams. I think we had 3 teams that finished in the top 10 or 12. So, I mean, I think we're okay.
It is. And again, those programs have good softball there. BYU's been a perennial NCAA, UCF NCAA, and Houston, obviously, familiar with them and their history as well. So all things considered is pretty good scheduling wise. And again, from what we know now, do you worry though that this is going to hurt the game? For example, like Oklahoma State, a lot of people saw that on national TV last year, the environment there, how exciting it was when the two programs played. Who knows if that's going to be now will continue or not, because of a lot of reasons, among them being of this 400-mile radius in the NCAA, where you all might now see each other in the tournament. So there might be some, hesitancy now of playing because of that. We see that across the country. It's not just here. I've seen that in Florida. I've seen that in Texas, all over the place. Do you worry about that from a sports standpoint that, it could affect the scheduling, for example, and some matchups that fans like?
Well, I can tell you from Oklahoma State's perspective, that won't change. I mean, I'm just telling you that now. And let me rephrase that. From Oklahoma State softball's perspective, that won't change. I can't speak for other teams, but I would be disappointed if Patty said, hey, I know we're not in the same conference and blah, 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 and we don't want to play. I'd be very disappointed in that. I already have that with Arkansas. Like, Arkansas won't play anybody around here. And it's been very irritating, but I understand from their perspective why. It doesn't mean I agree or I like it. But I hate it because we're so close and we should be playing. What Courtney's done over at Arkansas has been amazing. And we're missing out on playing a home and home every year. And I want to play the best schedule. If you look at our schedule, I'm not trying to count wins. I'm trying to get to the last game. And I think that's why we continue to get better, because we don't shy away from playing anyone. If you look at our schedule, we're not shying away from anyone. We don't go to these tournaments and give them a list of teams that we will play and we won't play like a lot of schools do. We say, give us the best schedule. Right now, I don't always like that. But at the end of each year, I'm like, man, I'm glad we played that schedule. And so it's not going to change from our perspective. I hope it doesn't change from OU's. And I hope we can continue to play those games. It'll be very disappointing if we can't.
Do you think if we had a tournament where you didn't have this 400-mile radius rule, it'd be a lot easier to schedule from that standpoint? Because I went through this covering in Florida, UCF, USF for a lot of years prior to them, being in the same conference. They didn't play. And part of the reason they didn't play was because they were concerned, like, well, we're going to get paired up in a Gainesville regional or Tallahassee regional, so we don't want to play each other and show our cards, if you will. And that's a topic over here in Florida because those two are not going to be in the same league possibly, and we'll see what happens there. Do you think that would help scheduling? Because I feel like, and this in the sport, there's a lot of people, hey, I don't want to show you what we have, for whether you agree with it or not. I think that's a factor in some of the scheduling that happens.
Yeah, I can't speak for others. I mean, I can just tell you how we do it. It'll probably be a problem because it's kind of a problem now. I have it, like I said, I have that problem with Arkansas. So if it's happening with us, it's probably happening in other schools. So I'm sure it's going to be a problem. I don't know how you fix it. I really don't. But I can just tell you that we'll play. I mean, we'll play anyone at any time. As you can see by our schedule this year, I think we have 3 weekends in a row where we go Texas, then we go on a non-conference weekend to Tallahassee, and then come home the next week and play OU. So we're not running from anyone. We'll play them, and we want to play them. I enjoy playing these competitive programs and coaches and teams because it just sets you up for how hard the postseason is. And Uh, that's just my take.
One thing that's all would be added in the game is instant replay for postseason. Other leagues are using it. Where is the Big 12 on instant replay, and your reaction to instant replay now in softball?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. We've got it installed here, or installing it as we speak. Excited about how it can help us. What I found out just from a personal experience is the system that we're using. It's beneficial in practice because we walk around here with an iPad and can replay what just happened in a practice in a moment's notice. So there's been some very good coaching that's come out of that. And we didn't have it for a long period of time as we were testing it, but that was one of the best things that came out of it for me. So pretty excited about that. Anything that can help our game grow. What I love is that our umpires are all full for it because they want to get it right. And so when you have everybody working together to make it right, I think it's the right move.
Another rule that's kind of under the radar, the out of the box rule, used to be obviously if you're out of the box, it's an automatic out. Now it's been changed to a strike. What was your reaction to that rule change?
I hate rules. I wish they'd just make the rules and just stop. Like like rules don't bother me. Just tell me what they are clearly and then enforce them. That's all I want. Like I get irritated when we have an illegal pitch and the umpire, I say, hey, she did it again. And he goes, well, it wasn't quite as bad. I'm like, it's either illegal or it's not. So if you're going to call it every pitch. It's not that's not you don't get to decide, well, it wasn't as bad. You know what I mean? Like it's either illegal or it's not. So whatever the rules are, just enforce them correctly, be consistent, and I'm all good. Like they always say that if you want to change rules and get on the rules committee, do all this stuff. I don't want to be on any committees. I don't need any of that stuff. Just tell me what the rules are and we'll play by those rules.
You sound like Coach Kendra. He said the exact same thing to us when he was on the show here a few years ago. He says there's too many rules in softball. And it's, just simplify it. We got a good game. Why do we need to complicate it?
I agree.
And it's a good segue to ask you about Coach Kendra. You were at the World Series that turned out to be his last World Series. Your reaction to him retiring, Ralph Weekly, who retiring, and then Lou Harris Champer, who you faced at the World Series, retiring as well. That's three big name, legendary coaches here that we won't be seeing this year.
Yeah, three big time coaches, personalities, all unique in their own ways. I enjoyed all of them, competing against all of them. I was able to compete against all of them. Coach Candrea has always treated me unbelievably. I'm not a big, I don't try to bother people and go out of my way to, put them in weird spots. So I'm not like out there. If I run across you during recruiting, I like to talk if you look like you want to talk. And Coach Candrea, I didn't even know he knew who I was. And we were speaking at the same clinic and he walked up and called me by my first name, whether somebody told him, I don't know. And for him, this is just a couple of years back. And for him, he made me feel like $1 million. And competing against him and being around him and watching him go through last year was really neat. I hate to see him go. He's got so much to give, but I get it. You know what I mean? We all run our race, right? And I got to know Ralph when I was the director of ops for the Tennessee baseball team. So I've known Ralph for a long time. He's always been great to me. So it's kind of sad to see his personality go. And then Lou, man, competed against her at Florida a bunch. Had a great regional there our first year, forced them to do an if game with our first team. It was kind of wild. Played them last year, in one of her last games. Tireless worker, great coach, great person. She'll be missed. But the great thing about this sport is there's a lot of good people out there waiting. And when Karen now has got that show all to herself. I'm sure Ralph is around there though. I can't imagine that he's not around. I know that guy, and Caitlin and Tony out there. I mean, these are good coaches. And so you'll see a new little twist in all these programs, and we'll have to all adjust to what their nuances are, what they keep of mentors and how they adjust, and it'll be cool.
Yeah, I think I spoke to actually Karen, and she said that Ralph's kind of going to be in the broadcast booth from time to time doing some radio there. So, and she said,
I'd hate to be Karen.
well, she said she'd rather have him in the booth than in the stands yelling at her. So, so she joked about that. But you're right. These people are going to be around. Mike's still going to be around the game. Clearly wants to make an impact, so we'll still be seeing them all around. Last question for you. As you get set to start the season, what's going to be the keys for your team to accomplish your goals internally?
Just being the best team, being the best version of all of them, not trying to do something that you're not capable of. Just be the best version of what you are. Accept your role. If you don't like it, change it, but accept what you've earned. And just try to remember that when you're my age and you're back together at homecoming with your teammates, nobody cares if you hit the big home run or not. All they care about is how you were treated as a teammate and how you treated your teammates. And if our team has that genuine approach, we'll be there at the end. If we don't, we won't. And I know that. So we have the talent, obviously need to stay healthy. It takes a little bit of breaks, all the coaching cliches, but the best teams, not the most talented teams, the best teams are in OKC, bottom line.
Well, we look forward to seeing your team on the field before we know it. Coach, always appreciate you taking the time. I know it's busy as you get your team set, but always love talking to you, softball and sports in general. Good luck, and we'll talk soon.
All right, Eric. Thanks for having me, man.